Welcome to the Paddle Portage Podcast. You're on your way down to the Shore Lake Superior. We got a friend of the podcast here with some tales and updates.
Barb Soderberg used to work for the Forest Service. In fact, had the wilderness job that is currently held by Kathy Quinn, who we've interviewed a number of times in the past couple of years about wilderness policy, things related to the boundary waters. And Barb Soderberg in 1978 was involved with the legislation that is the BWCA Wilderness Act. And Barb's daughter is an accomplished author, and I'm headed down to meet him. So see you later, LB.
TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
Welcome to the podcast. We are here in Grand Marais today, Lake Superior behind us, the East Bay. We've got all this different stuff going on with the weather today, some snow happening as Erin Soderberg Downing and I were walking out here on Artist Point where we're standing. So hello, Erin, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
I've certainly heard a lot about you, of course, from your books, very popular across Minnesota and beyond, but up here in the Boundary Waters region, Lake Superior, you've written a lot about this part of the state and part of the world. So it's really nice to meet you. Of course, I've also, I should say, for viewers and listeners, known about your work and you through your mom, Barb Soderberg, who worked for the Forest Service for many years and has been on the podcast a few times talking about some issues around the Forest Service. In fact, we've heard from Barb a few times this year about policy-related things and some impacts to the Forest Service. In fact, Barb's going to join us a little bit later in this conversation. But you're here, Erin, because of the Readers and Writers Festival that's taking place in Grand Marais here in November. And how's that been going for you?
It's been going great. I got to talk to all of the 3rd through 8th graders in the Grand Marais area yesterday,
nice.
Which was really fun. And then today I taught a class with adults about creating authentic stories.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been super good. People seem so excited to be here. And the weather held out for us here in November.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so do you make it up to Grand Marais very often? Or?
Not that often. I'm from Duluth originally.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if I go 4 hours north from the cities, I head toward Ely.
Yeah.
But I love getting up here because it's one of my favorite places. In fact, I like Lake Superior so much I have it tattooed on my forearm.
Right on.
So yeah, I always like a chance to get up here.
Okay,
so,
cool. Well, you have a new book that is out, and it is called What Happened Then.
Correct.
Came out this fall, 2025.
Yeah.
And it's set on what is described in the book as Crooked Lake, although my understanding is that the actual sort of physical descriptions and so forth in the island are based on Rainy Lake.
Yes. So a couple summers ago, I got invited to go up to a young writers camp on an island in Rainy Lake, where I was sort of marooned on this island for 2 weeks with young writers. And that's actually where I started writing this story, because I was like immersed in the setting of it, but it wasn't like a good enough name. And my mom's favorite Boundary Waters lake was Crooked Lake. And that this book is a mystery. And I felt like Crooked Lake sort of evoked that mystery tone. So that's sort of how I write all my stories. I take a lot of real life, and then I take pieces that don't work for me, and I change them because it's fiction. It's the liberties you get to take. So yeah. But the lake is described as, dark and mysterious. So lots of reefs on it, which is really fun.
Okay, and that's Crooked.
Crooked Lake.
So when you're at Rainy Lake doing the work and teaching this course, working with youth and kind of starting this book, is that near Mallard Island and the Oberholzer Foundation, whole thing?
It's an island called Otsikon Island that's privately owned, and there's a whole collection of little cabins that are very rustic. So we each stayed in a different spot in this island. I had my own cabin, no electricity, no bathroom, and I shared it with my dog. So we got really lucky because we had a little sleeping porch that overlooked the lake, and you could not imagine a better place to write a story than living sort of in the setting of your book. I do that a lot, actually. I tend to sort of immerse myself in whatever setting I'm working in right then, because I feel like then readers can be transported to the world that I'm creating in fiction.
Yeah, right on. And Rainy Lake definitely has a character to it and an energy and some of that. Or have you been to Mallard Island? Do you know about that place?
That was my first time on Rainy Lake, actually. And I was lucky enough that some of the folks who were with me up there had boats. So we were able to get out to, and explore a little bit. But it is like a whole state of its own.
It totally is.
It's really cool, and that would be a very cool place to live.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, cool. Well, let's then talk about some of these themes that you've just described about taking real life things and bringing them into your fiction work. And the book is about, in part, family and family history and on mapping some of that. And your family history, Soderberg's, is very connected to the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. Barb, your mom, was involved with some of the implementations of the 1978 Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness Act. This is this very important piece of federal legislation that was passed in the late 70s. She was front and center on some of that and worked a lot with wilderness and wilderness policy and has been instrumental in the Boundary Waters. And so how did that shape your youth and having someone who was so intimately involved with the Boundary Waters?
Yeah, I think I didn't really have an appreciation for what my mom did until I got older and started writing stories that incorporated the North Woods in Minnesota and sort of understood how important the work my mom did was. When I was a kid, when I was a middle schooler, she used to get shipped off to fight wildland forest fires. Forest fires in the West. So I knew she did that, but I didn't quite realize how many other important things she did. But I grew up getting to go to the Boundary Waters every summer, canoeing. I love the Boundary Waters because I like that you can take absolutely everything you need. But I am a very lazy person by nature, and so portages always frustrated me. I distinctly remember that when I would go, every summer I'd go with my dad, my uncle, and my cousin, or a couple of cousins. And we would start out at 4:30 in the morning, and we had to portage 9 different portages. And I always said when I get older, when I go to the Boundary Waters, I have a max of 1 portage. But I discovered you don't get the same tranquility, to go so deep in, you're really by yourself. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Right, and so it's interesting to hear you, somebody who's published 70 plus books, describe yourself as lazy. I think that would be okay. But in terms of the wilderness and Forest Service stuff, was that something around the dinner table that your folks were discussing and you were just sort of listening? Or?
I think probably a lot, and I'm not sure. I think when you're a kid, your world revolves around you, and you don't necessarily pay as much attention to the important things that your parents are doing. I always knew my mom was on the news tonight talking about something. But then when I got older and I was trying to understand some of these stories in our family history, getting to hear from her about some of the cool things that she did that she downplays so much. And what's fun is now I can share stories about some of the things that she's done and my dad has done in the Boundary Waters and my grandpa. And I get to share those stories with readers. One of the big parts of my job, probably my favorite part of my job, is that I go around to states all over the U.S. and share the research that I do for my books and the history and about the geography of, where my books are set, and getting to share this love and history of Minnesota and our carefully preserved wildlands with kids who live in places like Long Island or Boston or Seattle. There's just nothing like Minnesota here, and so it's fun to be able to share some of those stories about I'm always my mom is really freaking cool, you guys. And I like that I get to tell them that, because most of them are probably thinking, my mom is so not cool. And I'm sure that's how I felt when I was a kid. But now I completely admire and respect that my parents gave me this love of the outdoors. And I didn't really feel like a real writer, that I had come into my own as a writer until I started writing books that were set in Minnesota. For a long time, I wrote about other places, made up places in other states. And then when I came back to my roots and I embraced the nature we have here and the outdoor culture, like that's, I feel like, when I really understood who I am as a writer. So yeah, I have that, like my whole history of family members to thank for that.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it sounds like the Boundary Waters, even though you haven't specifically written about it yet, has shaped or sort of made that come full circle for your career arc and sense of place.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I do want to write a story in the Boundary Waters. I am really interested in the blowdown fire that happened, and there's a really cool documentary about that, and a lot of those people are still around. So I do want to start doing some research into that. I feel like that would be a really interesting suspense story, is someone who is trying to get out of a fire type situation in the Boundary Waters. But it's like that in particular is such a unique setting that so many people around the world know nothing about. And so I feel like I know it, why would I not write about it? So yeah, I definitely have plans to write about something in the Boundary Waters.
Okay. Fiction?
Fiction for sure.
Yeah. All right.
I like to make stuff up around reality.
Yeah.
It's more fun.
Gosh, and it's such a hard thing to do. I've dabbled in fiction, and most of my work is journalism, and it's really hard. I mean, I salute anybody that can write good fiction, because it's a difficult thing to do well, and you clearly are doing that well with your awards and just the recognition that your work gets.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I like it a lot. It is really hard, and I was just teaching this class this morning about creating authentic characters, and it's important to just be like vulnerable, but also call upon things that you do know and put them into your work in order to make it believable. So yeah, I make my fiction is based a lot on real places, a lot of times real people, but I change the parts that I need to for the fiction, and that's why it's fiction.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to seeing your Boundary Waters book when it comes out.
Yeah, it hasn't been started.
Yeah.
I have a few in the meantime, but
Okay.
yeah. No, I feel like it would be crazy for me not to write a book set in the Boundary Waters.
Yeah, cool. Do you think a character on your mom or family
Probably.
could be involved in that?
Yeah, for sure. I think I put a little of my mom in a lot of my characters. She is a character in and of her own right.
Yeah, and in fact, in just a minute, we're going to have Barb come join Erin and I and talk about some current issues around the BWCA and a little bit more about Erin's work as well, so stick around.
At Cascade Vacation Rentals, we believe that being able to reconnect with nature is important for a healthy life. And we know that life has a tendency to be overwhelming at times, and busy schedules often leave people feeling overwhelmed and disconnected. That's why we're here, to offer you the space and opportunity to reconnect to what's important. We have one of the largest selections of privately owned vacation rental homes and cabins on Minnesota's North Shore of Lake Superior. Choose from luxury homes on the Big Lake to quaint cabins on an inland lake. Find your perfect vacation rental home at staycvr.com. And don't forget to use our exclusive Paddle and Portage promo code PADDLE10 to save 10% on your 2025 Northwoods Getaway at staycvr.com.
All right, well, we're back and now huddled in here on this windy November day by Lake Superior, and joining Erin and I now is Erin's mom, Barb Soderberg. Barb, good to see you again.
It's good to see you again, too. This is fun.
Right,
I'm cold, but it's fun.
Yeah, we've got some serious November weather. We had some snow today. They actually had like 2.5 inches of snow up the Gunflint Trail this morning.
I heard
got that photo sent down. So winter's on the corner, but the Readers and Writers Festival is in full swing. And Barb, it's really cool that you could come over from the Ely area and hang out with Erin and attend some of the workshops or be involved in some way if you have been. I'm wondering, probably as a big fan of Erin's, what your favorite book of your daughter's is.
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question. I like them all. I do, but I have to tell you, I really like Just Keep Walking. Mostly, I think, because I'm just so proud of Erin for hiking the entire trail so that the setting would be authentic. And she hiked it with her son, who was, what, at the time?
13.
13 at the time. Parts of it with some other friends or family. But she hiked the last 100 miles by herself, and that's something that I wouldn't even do. So it's proud, and I think it kind of fits the theme of the book, that if you put your mind to it, you can do hard things.
Yeah, the Superior Hiking Trail, which is the setting of that book.
Right.
And so we'll add some links to the new book and all your website and so forth, Erin, where I know people can access all your work. But Barb, while we're here, and typically you and I have talked about Forest Service related things, including this year, I saw you at a rally in Duluth with some of the forest supervisors who've retired were at that rally in Duluth at that time. And things have continued to be difficult for some of the federal employees, including members of Superior National Forest, employees of Superior National Forest. Here in November, the government shut down. Now, and it's the longest in history. And did you ever experience anything like this, like a shutdown of this? I mean, certainly not of this duration, but anything like this?
Yeah, we had a few shutdowns. I think they lasted a week or two. But, this one is just a whole lot different. The firings along with it, people getting laid off, working this long without any pay for those people that have to be working. No, I never experienced anything that remotely resembles this.
Yeah, and I know at the rally in Duluth, and that was right the eve of the fishing opener, so mid-May, and you were saying then, you and Connie Cummins and other people who were at that, like, this is just, we've never seen anything like this. Morale was low. There were people coming out of the building that day from the ranger station in Duluth, and it was like their last day. They'd taken the buyout. I mean, it's just all these whirlwind of things. And
and it was done in such a, I have to call it inhumane manner. Letters came out saying your job is done, you're incompetent. And these are 20-year employees that are high-performing, passionate people who did good work their whole lives. And it's sad. It's just sad. The Superior is down more than 50% of what it's been in the past, but still...
For employees?
For employees, down 50%. Still trying to keep our recreation areas open, still trying to take care of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness with very few people, but yet, people are still able to go in for now, but, what is it doing to the resource? What's happening to campsites with nobody to put in new grates or clean out grates, put in new toilets, that kind of thing. But it's not just the Boundary Waters, it's, all national forests and national parks and across the country, and the priority right now is certainly not taking care of our public lands. It's just not.
Yeah, I'm wondering your thoughts, if you've heard about it, the bill from Senator Lee about putting the Border Patrol in and this type of protection, as they're calling it, but law enforcement in the wilderness.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely stupid. I mean, that would cut across the Quetico Superior area, open it up to roads, access. I've got 40 years in working the Boundary Waters Canoe Area, and I can tell you there were no people coming across the border sneaking into the U.S. It's absolutely ridiculous. I have nothing else to say about it.
Okay, we hear you. So let's talk then about some lakes in the wilderness.
Okay.
Pivot from policy and celebrate the place a little bit. Crooked Lake, as Erin was describing to us, is the name of the lake, even though it's actually rainy. But she chose Crooked because it's a special place for you and the family. And tell us about your connection there.
Early on in my career, right after Kurt and I got married, in fact, we spent the entire summer up in the Crooked Lake area. At that time, we worked 10 days and we'd have 4 days off. We often spent our 4 days in the Boundary Waters as well and just did some personal sightseeing, or sometimes we kept on working. I mean, that's just the way it was, but we covered the area from Basswood over to Lac LaCroix and south down to the Fort Town area. So it was a pretty big area to cover. So, a couple of newlyweds spending the entire summer in the Boundary Waters Canoe area. I mean, what could be better? And the memories they'll always be there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite pictures of my mom is she's inside a latrine, poking her head out of the hole because they had built it. But
a new latrine.
A new latrine, but I don't know that.
Yeah, we had just dug the hole, and you try to get them down to 3 or 4 feet or more if you can, and then you put the wooden. At that time, they were wooden latrines that you carried in and built them on site and put them over. And I just said, I'm going to check this out from the outside in and the inside out, and just fun.
You got to make
fun because we worked hard. I mean, we'd be at the end of Crooked Lake, and it'd be 5 o'clock at night, and you got a couple hours to go back to where you were camped, and we just worked till the job was done. We loved the area. We felt like we were having a part in not only maintaining it, but it was almost a legacy kind of thing. So there's a passion there.
Right. Wow. And I would love to see that photo if it exists digitally somehow, some way. Yes. All right. Well, check our social media for that. We will, if you're willing to share it.
Yeah.
Well, so here we are, Grand Marais. We've got these beautiful skies behind us, and you're here because your daughter is involved with this Writers Festival,
Right.
Literature Festival, and I'm just wondering from the mom perspective of seeing your daughter teaching classes, her name's all over the schedule, and people are excited to meet her and learn from her. What that means for you?
Well, both Kurt and I are just extremely proud of her. I mean, this wasn't something we truthfully expected her to do as a career.
Me either.
No, yeah, probably her neither. I just, wasn't expecting it, but she's been a smart kid her whole life, and pretty good with words. I asked Kurt about some of the arguments we used to get into. She'd usually win them all.
Yeah.
But yeah, proud of her, but not just for her writing. She's a good mom, a good wife, just a good human being.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's really a pleasure to be here with both of you and talk about literature with you, Erin, for sure, and hear some of that. And just lastly, Barb, I'm wondering, when you saw that mechanism connect between outdoor places and writing for Erin, when that happened?
She's always had a love of the outdoors. I never made the connection with the writing, but I don't know. That's evolved, and I'm just not so sure. I can tell you there was a time where there was a connection, but
I
know. You probably,
I think it was controlled burn. My
sure.
book set in a fictional version of Tower, Minnesota, that featured my grandpa in a very fictionalized way, but it revolves around controlled burns and forest fires.
Okay.
And so that was when I was able to dig into my mom's history with that and learn more about my grandpa, who had spent a summer working up in a tower. And I think, being able to take that anchor of the truth of how controlled burns work. I had to work with my mom and learn more about that. I still remember coming out of the Boundary Waters one time, and my husband and I came upon what we were sure was a forest fire. And we took our Nalgene's and tried to start putting it out. Well, it was a controlled burn that we had completely disrupted, and we feel terrible to this day. But I've always been so interested in that process and how it is important for the forest regrowth, and that mirrors characters too. Sometimes you have to go through really, really hard times in order to emerge stronger from the ashes. And so I think Controlled Burn and my book, where I took so much family history and started to realize that nature as a healer is something that I feel great writing about and feel great sharing with people. And then also being able to use this, my family history, and put it into stories.
And
so that's where it connected for me.
And it was really a lot of fun. I mean, she did a lot of research on it, and I got to read through the book before it was published to look at the parts dealing with forest fires and make comments. But man, she had it pretty well down pat before I even reviewed it. The other thing I want to say is, with her taking this outdoors and being able to make a career of it or related to that, and so much of that goes back to her growing up in the outdoors and having an appreciation for it. Right now, I'm concerned for kids who are growing up now under the conditions that we have right now. I mean, are we going to have a Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness? Are we going to have natural areas? That's not the priority. Gas and oil. Other things are the priority, or selling, or for money, or for building, or whatever. So that's one side of it. Are we going to have these natural areas? But the other part of it is with what's going on right now, as we talked a little earlier, our people's priorities are changing. They have to change when kids are thinking about, gee, am I going to get a next meal? Am I going to have a meal? Am I going to get breakfast in school tomorrow? Are my parents going to get the help they need to buy groceries? Where are my clothes going to come from? Do we have medical coverage? Are our rural hospitals going to survive this? There are serious consequences here on what's going on, and with these priorities changing, are our kids not going to have the benefit that our kids had?
And the time to go out and explore and imagine and be in the woods because they're worried about other things. Yeah.
All very important questions, societal questions, and things to think about as we have the opportunity and the privilege to kind of come out and enjoy this day in Grand Marais and so forth. Just things to be mindful of. And same as that individual walking by right there.
Exactly.
So thank you both so much for being here. Barb,
fun.
Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
And Erin, really a pleasure to meet you. And thanks
you
a lot
too.
For the time.
Thanks for letting me bring my mom.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So if you want, you can hold those books up and we can get a shot of those and check them out in the links to here with Erin and Barb.
Huge thanks to Barb and Erin. We appreciate your wealth of experience, perspective, collectively and individually. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with the Paddle and Portage team. And thanks for not pushing Joe in the lake, because, not everybody likes Joe all the time. Except for me. I love him all the time.